In 1980, IBM needed an operating system for its personal computer. The machine was being rushed to market to compete with Apple's emerging success in the personal computer space. IBM's timeline was so compressed that it was sourcing components from third-party suppliers rather than designing them internally, which was a significant departure from IBM's traditional vertical integration. IBM approached Microsoft, then a small company focused on programming languages, about the operating system. Bill Gates suggested that IBM speak with Digital Research, the company that made the dominant operating system for personal computers at the time. CPM IBM spoke with Digital Research. The negotiation failed, reportedly because Digital Research's founder, Gary Kildall, was not present for the meeting, and because the legal terms IBM required were unacceptable to Kildall's team. IBM came back to Microsoft. Gates negotiated an arrangement that would define the personal computing industry for the next 3 decades. Microsoft would acquire an existing operating system, QDOS, Quick and Dirty Operating System, developed by Seattle Computer Products, adapt it for IBM's hardware, and license it to IBM under a non-exclusive arrangement. IBM would pay Microsoft a license fee per machine. Microsoft retained the right to license the same operating system to other manufacturers. IBM agreed to the non-exclusive licensing arrangement. It was, from IBM's perspective, a reasonable commercial decision. IBM was not in the software business. Operating systems were not considered a strategic asset at the time, and the per-unit license fee seemed like a reasonable cost for accessing the software they needed to ship the machine on schedule. IBM's decision to accept a non-exclusive license was the single most consequential business decision made in the personal computing industry. It gave Microsoft the right to license MS-DOS, and subsequently Windows, to every PC manufacturer in the world. It created the standard that produced Microsoft's market dominance, and it was a decision that IBM could have made differently had it recognized, in 1980, that the operating system was going to be more valuable than the hardware. IBM didn't recognize this because the mental model of the computer industry in 1980 was that value was in hardware. Mainframes were expensive. Mini-computers were expensive. The computer manufacturers captured the value. The software that ran on the computers was either proprietary or, in the emerging personal computer market, relatively low value. IBM's negotiators approached the Microsoft deal with a hardware company's mental model. The machine is the product. The software is a cost of manufacturing the machine. And a per-unit license fee is a reasonable way to allocate that cost. The non-exclusive arrangement was consistent with this model. If software is a manufacturing input, you don't need exclusive control of it any more than you need exclusive control of any other commodity component. Gates negotiated from a different mental model. Software is not a manufacturing input. Software is a platform. A platform that runs on every PC in the world is not a commodity component. It is the infrastructure layer that controls access to every application that will ever run on every PC in the world. The platform company, in a platform market, captures disproportionate value relative to the hardware manufacturers who pay the license fees. This mental model difference, hardware company valuing software as a cost versus software company valuing software as a platform, was not unusual or obscure in 1980. It was the difference between the mental model of the 1970s computer industry and the mental model of the 1990s software industry. IBM was thinking in the 1970s mental model. Gates was thinking in the 1990s mental model, a decade before the 1990s arrived. Have you ever watched a negotiation where one party's mental model of what was valuable was fundamentally different from the others, and the terms they agreed to reflected each party's model rather than a shared understanding of what was actually at stake? Leave a comment. The partner IBM should have negotiated with was Digital Research. Gary Kildall's CP/M was the established operating system for personal computers in 1980. Had the IBM Digital Research negotiation succeeded, Kildall would have received the platform opportunity that Gates received instead. What happened to digital research after IBM chose Microsoft is one of the cleanest available illustrations of how a single partnership decision, or the refusal of one, reshapes everything that follows. CP/M remained technically competitive for years after MS-DOS established itself as the IBM PC standard. But the network effect of MS-DOS's adoption, once enough PCs ran MS-DOS, software developers wrote for MS-DOS, which made MS-DOS PCs more valuable, which sold more MS-DOS PCs, made technical quality irrelevant to the competitive outcome. SEK, digital research produced a successor to CP/M that was broadly compatible with MS-DOS. The compatibility was real. The network effect was not reversible through compatibility. The software catalog available for MS-DOS machines was larger, growing faster, and better supported than anything that ran on CP/M. The installed base had already determined the winner. Kildall's refusal of the meeting terms, or the failure of the negotiation, depending on which account you find more credible, was not obviously catastrophic in 1980. It became catastrophic retroactively as the consequences of IBM's choice compounded through the network effects of operating system adoption. If the mechanism, how a single partnership refusal reshapes an entire industry through the network effect of the alternative partnership, is what makes this channel worth your time. The like is the direct signal. IBM's internal culture in 1980 had an additional layer that the negotiation story doesn't fully capture. The people who negotiated the Microsoft deal were not IBM's most senior leadership. The personal computer project, the IBM PC, was a skunkworks operation, deliberately separated from IBM's main business, so it could move faster than IBM's normal processes allowed. The engineers and product managers running the IBM PC project were operating under time pressure with limited resources and with a mandate to ship a competitive product on an aggressive timeline. The decision to accept Microsoft's non-exclusive licensing terms was made in that context, not as a considered strategic choice about the future of the software industry, but as a practical solution to a shipping deadline. The people who made that decision were not wrong in any straightforward sense. They solved the problem they were trying to solve. They shipped the IBM PC. It was commercially successful. It established the industry standard they had been trying to create. The consequence? That the standard they created enriched Microsoft by approximately $2 trillion over the following 4 decades, while IBM's PC business gradually became unprofitable and was eventually sold to Lenovo, was not visible in 1980 because it depended on a set of market dynamics that nobody fully understood yet, including Gates. Gates understood the direction. He did not know the magnitude. Nobody did. The practical lesson from the IBM-Microsoft partnership decision is about the relationship between mental models and contract terms. Every major business partnership is negotiated by parties who hold, implicitly or explicitly, a mental model of what is valuable in the market being addressed. The terms of the partnership reflect each party's mental model. A party that understands what will be most valuable in the future will negotiate terms that preserve their access to that value. A party that is operating from an obsolete mental model will negotiate terms that make sense within their model and that inadvertently give away what the other party's model identified as most valuable. IBM's negotiators gave away the non-exclusivity of the operating system license because their model said the operating system was a manufacturing cost. Gates accepted the non-exclusivity because his model said the operating system was a platform, and a non-exclusive platform that runs on all IBM-compatible machines is worth more than an exclusive one that runs only on IBM machines. The same transaction, 2 different models of what it was worth. The practical thing. Before finalizing any significant business agreement, Ask explicitly what the other party's model of the market says about which element of the agreement is most valuable. If their model is different from yours, the terms they care most about protecting may not be the terms that matter most under your model. That gap between what they're protecting and what you should be protecting is where the most important contractual decisions live. The next episode looks at a company that nobody wanted to fund, that outlasted everything around it. This content was developed with the support of artificial intelligence tools and underwent human review, editorial curation, and approval before publication. The analysis presented here is strictly educational and philosophical in nature, grounded in behavioral psychology and classical Stoicism.